This is Hemant.
And Jessica.
And we're here for the Friendly Atheist Podcast. If you like what you're listening to, you could donate to patreon.com/Friendly Atheist Podcast. Or if you want to wait and hear the episode, you could do that too.
Yeah,
we'll
you're
say
getting
it again
those
at the
plugs
end.
in just right off the top.
I do what I can. So we want to go over, today's Thursday night as we're recording this, May 11th. We want to go over some of the stories that were in the week's news. Here's, to me, the biggest one, and most of this stuff is not directly Trump-related.
Okay. Well,
so.
are we going to talk about the Comey thing? Because I don't have anything interesting or insightful to say that hasn't been said by smarter people than I.
There seems to be a lot of shit going down in D.C. This is not
I mean,
that
literally,
stuff.
by the time this podcast comes out, like, we could be living in a post-democracy America.
Yes.
I'm excited about it. I'm not. I'm kidding. It was a joke. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's all the news all the time.
Yeah.
But thankfully, there were other horrible things happening, too.
Yeah, I was worried. Well, because I was telling him today, I obviously wait till the last second to find any relevant news stories because that's how I got through my entire educational career, and I don't see why I need to change that now.
No, why bother?
So today I was like poking around, and everything was like Trump and Comey and everything related, and I was like, the only shit I could find was like that Friendly Atheist posted to Facebook, and I was like, well, that's not original content.
Who needs to read that?
Not me. I'll tell you that. We got to now. Okay, so anyway, so my point is I'm not going to bring anything to the table besides
It's all
wine
good.
and charm.
I got a plant. Nice. That's all you need.
That's all. That's my thing.
Here's the story that really bugged me for the week, which is it has to do with the comedian Stephen Fry. This happened a few years ago, and somehow it's in the news now.
Okay.
But in 2015, Stephen Fry is a comedian. He's British, but he's been in stuff everyone's seen before.
Yeah, you know Stephen Fry.
I did as of a few years ago. I swear, when I first heard his name mentioned,
really?
years ago, I was like, who the hell is Stephen Fry? And then since then, I see him everywhere.
Yeah, he's definitely one of those people that shows up all over the place. I'm looking it up because I really live in fear that I'm talking about the wrong person.
I remember hearing about him. I'm like, well, I don't know why everyone loves this guy. I mean, they do, but I don't know why. And then suddenly I think I was watching 24 or something, and he's on there. I'm like, how did you show up in there as I'm...
Well, he hosted, I think, QI, which is a British, they love their panel shows in Britain.
Yes.
He hosted one of those, which was a real delight. I went through a real big QI phase. Anyway, he's a wonderful human being.
He's a wonderful human being.
He played Oscar Wilde, my favorite author.
Did he really?
Mm-hmm.
He actually got I think a Lifetime Achievement Award or some variation of that from Harvard, the humanist group at Harvard. Which
he's the best. And a staunch atheist.
And a staunch atheist, which is, okay, so if you...
Is this the bone cancer in children
Yeah.
thing? It's back?
Yeah, so in 2015,
okay,
he does this interview with a host in Ireland. And they ask him, I'm going to quote here, suppose it's all true, and you walk up to the pearly gates, and you're confronted by God, what will Stephen Fry say to him, her, or it?
Mm-hmm.
And Stephen Fry famously, I think, because it's been quoted so many times, said, I'll say, bone cancer in children? What's that about? How dare you? How dare you create a world in which there is such misery that is not our fault? It's not right. It's utterly, utterly evil. Why should I respect a capricious, mean-minded, stupid God who creates a world which is so full of injustice and pain? That's what I would say. He wasn't even done yet. But okay, that's the gist of... Oh, he went on, by the way.
And this is... not that Hemant isn't doing like a grade A reading of this, but it's worth watching the interview. Because
you don't like my accent?
No.
My Stephen Fry imitation?
I just said you were doing a great reading. But it's... I remember like where I was when I watched it because it was really, to me, really impactful.
You rolled your eyes Anderson Cooper style as I was reading that.
Oh, God.
Stephen Fry went on to say... If the God who created this universe, if it was created by God, is quite clearly a maniac, an utter maniac, totally selfish.
My favorite.
We have to spend our life on our knees thanking him. What kind of God would do that? Blah, blah, blah. He could have made a creation in which that didn't exist. It's simply not acceptable. Okay, you get the idea.
Yeah.
Does this interview a couple years ago, and this is on state-run TV in Ireland, kind of like their BBC, something like that. But here's the thing. In Ireland, they still technically have a blasphemy law, which says if you offend people's sensibilities, you could be punished for it.
Are they trudging it back up?
Yeah, so get this. A guy reports this interview recently. I think it's recent. Maybe he did it when it happened, but they looked into it now or something. Then this guy isn't even religious. he doesn't. The guy who complained said, I wasn't offended by this, but
one might be.
But one might be, and I have a civic duty to report it, is more or less his argument.
Shit. Are you kidding?
No. So he reports it. And
fuck that guy.
The
Come
Irish
on.
government says, all right, I mean, if you get one complaint, they have a duty to investigate it. I mean, even with the FCC, if someone complains about a Stephen Colbert joke like they did, FCC
is that how it works? Like literally,
yes.
if
a person does it, they say they will investigate. So when the FCC said, we're going to investigate Stephen Colbert, and people made a big deal about it, that's not a big deal because anyone can launch an investigation, and the FCC has to respond. Doesn't mean they're going to do anything about it. So the Irish government says, well, we have to investigate this. But here's the best part. They eventually said, we're not going to do anything about this.
Cool.
And I want to make sure I get this thing right.
Oh, are you going to do an Irish accent then?
I'm
sorry.
That will offend everyone if I do it. The Irish people said, the government said, we're not going to pursue this complaint because, quote, because they were, quote, unable to find a substantial number of outraged people.
So...
including the person who complained.
I guess, but what's the point of this dude coming for? Was he looking for like a cash grab or his name in the papers?
Don't get no, because he didn't even quote his name. I think he was anonymous in every article I read. Like he didn't want his name in the public because
he's a sociopath.
he knew people would come after him or something. Like, what the hell are you doing?
That's a fair question, Hemant. What the hell is he doing?
I think just tattletaling, like, oh, I saw someone jaywalking. I should report it because he's breaking the law. Okay, so that's kind of funny that they had to drop these charges because no one actually cares.
Right.
But the more disturbing thing is Ireland has a blasphemy law.
It's Ireland.
It's Ireland. It's not like Iran. It's not Saudi Arabia. This is Ireland.
I went to Ireland for a weekend.
And you probably broke the law many, many times.
An Irish guy dropped me in the street, so...
Well, I mean, that makes sense. I don't know what you did, but it makes sense.
It wasn't malicious. That is absolutely... That's insanity. And it's unacceptable, frankly. Like, the fact that it is 2017... and blasphemy laws are still on the books, and nobody's like, hey, guys, maybe this is something we should just...
There is Atheist Ireland, a group there. I mean, they've been pushing for the government to reform the law, to get rid of it. But as with any constitutional reform, it's not an easy thing to do. But you would think this is a bipartisan or whatever they have there. You would think this is one of those things.
Everyone so educated on international government.
Sorry, Ireland. You would think this is one of those things. They could just say, like, yeah, that's a stupid law.
Sure. Which it is.
Blasphemy is different to every person. There's no objective rule for this. So it's the fact that this is in the news. It's less about Stephen Fry and the Ireland dropping the charges, and way more about, hey, this is something that's still in the books that someone could theoretically be punished for.
That people in the Irish government took time out of their days and used
to respond to this, and
used resources to be like, oh, am I offended by this thing that happened 2 years ago that I haven't heard of up until now? Maybe. Let's pull the audience.
It's totally messed up. And the punishment, by the way, for blasphemy in Ireland, if you were convicted, which...
Is it put them in the stocks? I'm sorry.
You're the only one laughing.
I don't know why. I just made myself laugh.
The punishment, if you were convicted, which I can't... I don't remember reading anything about anyone who's actually been arrested for this. 25,000 Irish pounds. I don't know the conversion rate, but it's probably...
Well, I mean, the British pound is strong. I don't know how the Irish...
It's probably a lot. But no one's
25,000, like anything.
Anything, yeah.
Maybe pesos.
Yeah. So the blasphemy law, it exists. And in New Zealand, by the way, another country that has the blasphemy law.
Okay, New Zealand blows my goddamn mind.
Because... I don't know how they let Flight of the Conchords out of there if the blasphemy law is intact.
Oh, my God.
But the fact that
another
they
country
have
I've been to, and another country I fell in. I don't know, probably. I was there for a couple weeks.
Gotta stop sending you on these tours.
Oh, we should go on an international tour.
I'll get right on that.
Okay. We have like 14 Patreon donors already. That's enough to fund a global trip for like the 8 people per city who want to meet us.
We have 1 gallon of gas right now.
Like 2. Thanks, Obama.
All right. New Zealand actually said like they tried to put it as a standalone thing.
Right.
And I don't think that's working, so they're going to try to put it as an amendment to a larger bill. So maybe...
Well, and blasphemy
Why are these laws?
And New Zealand is the one, and maybe this is my ignorance about the fine culture of the Kiwis, but like, I mean, I guess they have a city called Christchurch, so that's...
They do.
Christchurch.
Christchurch.
But I just, it doesn't strike me as like, Ireland like is a well-known Catholics and / or Protestant country.
We do our research.
Well, no, it's both.
Yes.
That was based in historical fact. How dare you?
All right.
But New Zealand doesn't strike me as that way. Like, Australia is a aggressively non-religious country.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know why they have them, but more importantly, I don't know why they keep them there.
And blasphemy is such a, like, catch-all, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I'm offended by stuff.
Right.
Is that blasphemy
laws
then?
like that make me nervous that they're so open to interpretation. I'm sure you can say this of many across the span of the world, but blasphemy is like, doesn't mean anything, right?
It's messed
Because,
up.
like, in theory, like, if I say, God damn it, that's blasphemous.
Yes, and you have broken the law if someone complains, I think.
I have a question. Maybe we should have thought about this 3 years ago. Do podcasts fall under the FCC guidelines? Because they were so fucked.
No, because I don't think they're government.
No, because it's not radio. It's not the air.
And it's not on the air, yeah. So I think this year there's more leeway with what you could do.
You know what I learned
podcasts
recently?
that are on the air, like, I don't know, This American Life, they have to bleep out stuff.
Oh, yeah. You know what I learned recently is that the way, like, local channels work with the FCC, the reason the news is on all the time is because the FCC said, like, you can use this chunk of air, I don't know how TV works, in exchange for this much time per day you're dedicated to, like, informing people of what's going on.
So that's why morning music radio has like sports and weather and traffic reports forever.
And that's
why I don't listen to them.
And because of that, there are people, God, this is me recalling an article I read 3 months ago, but there are people saying, well, there shouldn't be commercials on the news, on like the nightly news, say, because then you're kind of presenting this conflict of interest between informing your populace and trying to get viewers and make money. So they're saying, like, no, you shouldn't be able to sell commercial space. That time is set aside to purely inform people.
Interesting.
It is interesting, right?
Which is weird because a lot of the places that have the news are not really informing us of anything, are they?
That's pretty sensationalized.
Yeah. All right. So that's it for the blasphemy story. It's just messed up that these are
really
even laws.
is.
And there are groups that are working to overturn those. There are legislators who want to see it gone.
Right. And for what it's worth, stories like this, I feel like often get brushed under the rug because nobody was actively harmed this time.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really good example of a thing that, like, no, we should be, when we talk about what the atheists as a group, are we best putting our time and effort toward, taking down the cross from the 9/11
What do we all
memorial.
agree on?
Not even what do we all agree on, but, like, what are we going to take a stand on, I guess? Like, where is our line in the sand? So should we be suing for,
church-state separation?
No, but, specifically nativity scenes on city property. Is that a good use of our time? Like, that's arguable. But I think
a blasphemy law
is something that is absolutely a thing that we should be focusing on because it's so archaic and so dangerous. I don't know.
Yeah.
We don't have blasphemy laws.
We do not, thankfully.
Okay.
So fuck everything.
So embarrassed I didn't know that. I'm sorry, guys.
Don't worry. They'll implement it soon after they're done doing all their other religious stuff.
Jesus Christ, what the fuck is going on? Did you hear The Rock might run for president?
I didn't read the article yet, but I saw the headline.
Obviously, I only saw the headline.
Yeah.
Obviously, I did not read that article, but that made my day.
Normally, I would have rolled my eyes at that thing, but it's like, you're not Trump, so I guess I'm for you now.
Reagan was an actor.
Nah.
Rock seems like a good guy. He's friends with Lin-Manuel Miranda. That guy's my litmus test for nice people.
Done.
Okay.
If Lin-Manuel Miranda wanted to run.
Oh my God, I would campaign so hard for Lin-Manuel Miranda. Oh my God.
I have no idea what they know about anything besides musical theater and acting. But
okay, well, Lynn wrote a musical about the founding of our country, so I bet he has his civics in order.
All right, this story will infuriate you.
Call me.
Yeah, that's...
I've had such a hard week, I can't be infuriated.
Okay, I'm going to preface this by saying I am vegetarian, have been, so I'm probably biased.
Okay, I'm going to preface this by saying I'm not, even though morally I think it's the right thing to do.
Okay.
So that's where I live.
Okay, there is a thing, kosher meat, halal meat, and I was not aware of what exactly that meant until recently. But here's the idea. In certain countries, if you want to kill animals, sorry if I'm getting this wrong, but the point's coming. I'm getting to the point. You have to like stun the animals, like knock them unconscious, basically, before you can slaughter them.
So this is in all meat production, or just okay,
all meat's the same to me. I don't know. But if you want to make kosher meat or halal meat, the animal has to be conscious when it's killed.
That I did not know.
Yeah.
That's kind of fucked up.
Isn't it, though? So in Belgium this week, a region of Belgium, politicians in Belgium, have voted to ban kosher and halal meats because they said it's cruel for the animals.
Interesting.
And the argument back, I mean, on the surface, that kind of makes sense because it's like, yeah, if you're going to kill animals,
again,
I guess.
Feels like a weird place to like plant your flag in the sand.
If you're going to kill animals, I guess that's the way to do it, even though that sounds messed.
Okay.
Making them unconscious and then killing them doesn't really make me feel better.
The process of becoming unconscious is like super fun and nice. Like you're like, we're killing animals. It's an unpleasant experience.
Like sedating the criminal before you do the death penalty. That doesn't make me think the death penalty is not a bad thing.
You're anti-death penalty, right?
I am. Yeah,
I am too. I've yet to hear. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry. Let's not get into that.
So the religious groups, this is from a Jewish group. This sends a terrible message to Jewish communities throughout our continent that Jews are unwanted.
Oh, shit. Shit.
We call on legislators to step back from the brink of the greatest assault on Jewish religious rights in Belgium since the Nazi occupation of the country in World War II.
Okay, he had me for a sec.
Yeah. And then the
cross that line, though, huh?
The Muslim representative quoted in one news report, much more relaxed about it, but he just said Muslims are worried about whether they can eat halal meat. Okay, that's a better statement. Anyway, but I mean, okay, I go back to the point that if you're gonna kill animals, saying that, no, we should slaughter them while they're still conscious, that seems pretty messed up. But then again, I still think the stunning them first, that does not seem better. I mean, that's a weird comparison to make that, well, at least we're doing this before we kill them.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I don't know. Is that religious discrimination of sorts? That's really the question I was going to get at.
So I wouldn't say it on its face is religious discrimination, but I do think it's always worth treading lightly around general Jewish culture because
they've been through stuff.
And are frequently victimized for no specific reason. They've played the scapegoat time and time again. So it always makes me uncomfortable to see somebody targeting something against the Jewish people as a whole. That does make me kind of ick a little bit.
Now, I guess the one response to that would be this wasn't anti-Jewish, this wasn't anti-Muslim, this was anti a certain practice that certain people do with animals. They're against this practice, and it just so happens that these religious groups do that practice. So it wasn't really religious discrimination.
That's the thing. It's like I'm sensitive to like how people have to shit all over Jews, which sucks. But at the same time, like we in America tell people like, yeah, I don't care about your religion. You have to, in theory, vaccinate your kids, or you have to do like there's certain lines we won't cross in deference to religion. And I'm struggling to think of a good example in the U.S., but I'm sure there's like okay. All right, I got one. Good job, Jess. Polygamy.
Yes.
Was supposed to be, and it's obviously not the same thing, but it is part of the Mormon religion. It is, depending on who you ask, a key part of what makes that religion important and a key important part of it. And we as a country have said, no, I don't care about your religion.
Even if Mormons disagree, and many do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we have said it doesn't matter what your religious belief is. This is a thing we don't allow. I will say I don't think polygamy is necessarily warranted of being outlawed. I think it's a very complicated topic, and Mormons have a history of marrying young children. But on its face, like, I don't think polygamy should be outlawed. I just need to say that. But but the idea is, it doesn't matter what your religion is.
It's the concept.
This is a law.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
I know what you're getting at. In this case, though, the one thing I should point out, Denmark banned the halal and kosher slaughter. They banned it in 2014.
Oh.
Switzerland did it recently as well.
Oh, I didn't
I'm
know
sorry, I lied. Let me correct this. Switzerland also bans halal kosher slaughter.
Uh-huh.
You have to stun the animals. They made that decision in 1893.
What?
So
really?
they're way ahead of the curve on this. And in January, the Netherlands banned this. So
it's
Netherlands,
precedented. So this isn't the first time that's...
Yes.
Okay, that makes
Belgium
me feel differently.
is now following suit and saying, yeah, I mean, they did it. It makes sense.
Yeah.
If you're going to kill the animals, stun them first so they're unconscious. Then slaughter the hell and cut their heads off. Again, I don't get meat. But, I mean, other people have done this. It was not to go after a certain group of people,
Sure.
even though that's who it affected. So I don't know. It makes sense to me.
It's complicated.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know where to go with that. I just know, well, there's that. And then I do have another story that seems similar. Because it also goes after Jews and Muslims.
Oh, good. Good. Those guys have had it too easy for too long.
Well, okay. So this time, this is a different story. In Norway, there is a part of their government, a party in their government.
Okay.
They're not in the majority, but they have proposed a law banning circumcision until the age of 16.
Ooh.
Totally banning it, saying basically it's kind of the same argument,
Yeah.
which is ritual genital mutilation.
Yeah.
Don't do it to your kids. That's the rule. And if the kids want to get it done after they're 16, they have that right. They can go get it done fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe, the proponents of the Norwegian bill, they said circumcision constitutes mental and physical harm to children and constitutes a serious violation of children's rights. And we're talking about the Progress Party, that is the third largest party, 29 of 169 seats. It is not a majority by any means.
But they're there.
And again, who does this affect? Well, in Jewish, I don't know if this is all Jews, but in a lot of Jewish groups, you have circumcision at birth. Mm-hmm. In the Muslim faith, a lot of groups do it, but you don't necessarily have to do it at birth.
Right.
And obviously, we've seen that in some Muslim majority countries, and I know this is culture as much as religion, they obviously do it to women too, and that's to girls, and that's messed up too. And here's the thing, like, I know
there are
there
girls
is...
I went to high school with who...
No way.
Had genital... Mm-hmm.
You're kidding. What was their background?
I know she was Indian. I think she
Wow.
was Muslim, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, so it happens. So this is the thing. Like, circumcision's not going away in Norway, but you have to be 16. And that makes sense to me. Like, on the surface, like, if you want to do that to yourself, it's like getting a tattoo. I mean, you go ahead and do whatever you want to with your body when you're of an age to make that decision for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
This is not about health. This is about a parent's religious tradition or cultural tradition.
I was going to say, I think at this point, I would argue it's much more cultural than it is religious. I don't know. I mean, the thing is, I don't think there are any compelling arguments for circumcision.
Yeah. And the health ones, I feel like I've seen debunked so many times.
Yeah, I mean, there's really no...
this is weird to listen to, but for guys, if you clean yourself properly, like those health things that circumcision is supposed to help with, you're going to be fine. But you got to be hygienic.
Right.
So I don't know what the arguments are in favor of it.
No.
And honestly, if I'm paraphrasing and I'm going to butcher it, whatever Christopher Hitchens said about it way back when, which is like, who looks at a newborn baby and a beautiful newborn baby and says, like, get me a rock, I need to rip part of this kid's body off.
Yeah.
Like, it's messed up.
No, it really is.
If you took religion out and tradition out of the picture, this would make no sense.
Completely fucked up.
So,
yeah.
but again, specifically affects Jews and Muslims because they do it and they think this is an attack on them. It doesn't help that this is also happening in Belgium with the animals.
Yeah, no, I mean, that I would argue maybe 100 years ago, like that is very specific to Jewish people, but I would say in 21st century world, I would say it's more of a cultural deal, right?
Yeah, I find it very hard to sympathize with the religious groups that are trying to do this stuff that in the animal case, it just seems unnecessarily cruel, though I say that about the stunning followed by death. But in this case, this is irreversible genital mutilation.
Yeah.
The kids don't get a choice in this. That seems, again, unnecessarily cruel to do. And I don't know what the explanation is to do it.
Yeah, and I've heard, God, the circumcision debate has been raging, especially in the last decade or so. People have really kind of gotten on, and it's definitely a thing that, like I said, there's absolutely no compelling evidence, and it is genital mutilation, but for some reason it doesn't like spark my outrage button. I don't know why. Because
is it because you're used to hearing people
100%, and like I understand it is a flaw on my end. Like it is objectively a bad thing, but like it's just one of those things that I can't get riled up over.
Yeah,
because people do. Like,
but I think this is the problem.
Get riled up
this
over
is the problem
because
we're so
I'm
used. I know
part of the problem.
No,
that's where I live.
It's me too because I didn't really get worked up about this for a long time because I'm so used to it. I mean, certainly in the Indian culture, this is something people do as well.
Guys, Hemon's Indian. Do we know that?
Oh, hi. But yeah, this is something I've heard about forever, and it's just like, oh, this is what happens when kids are born or whatever.
Yeah, it's just,
and it wasn't until much later that I put together like wait a minute, if you take away religion and culture and tradition, I don't know why the hell we do this. It doesn't make any sense. It's a weird subject because if you haven't thought about it, I can see why people probably wouldn't think twice about it.
No, 100%.
And I know there are like the quote unquote intactivists who are they're like PETA. It's like gung-ho about this is messed up and you can't do this. I can't
decide if I love or hate that portmanteau.
Right. And they're totally intense about it, but they make sense.
No, that's the thing is they're not
wrong.
They're not wrong.
They might be annoying at times, but they're not wrong.
You see, like, you know how high my energy level is when I get really mad about a thing? I can't apply that to everything, and I can't fake it. So, like, this is a thing that I just can't. And it's happened before that you're like, I'm mad about this thing. I'm like, I can't take the journey with you, buddy. But no, that's right. That's the right thing to do. Like, circumcision's fucked.
One commenter wrote on my website, I'm not sorry that protecting children upsets your community. To the religious people.
Taste that.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to move to one happy topic before I depress you some more.
God, no.
This was on Reddit. Someone asked, this is on Ask Reddit, that's a Reddit, theists of Reddit, what are some of the questions you have for atheists?
And I'm sure they have some really original shit that we haven't heard a million times, haven't?
I'm going to skip over some of the crazier ones. But here's the first one that I thought was good. Okay. A lot of religious people get frustrated or angry because of bigoted or ignorant people in their faith who give a bad reputation to everyone else. Do atheists have similar reactions to the stereotypical kind of Reddit atheist?
That's what it means to be in a society, is like, yeah, we have this like sort of tenuous bond, especially atheists. We have this tenuous... We all don't believe in God, which makes us a minority of people. But, like...
Beyond that.
Spoilers. Some atheists are assholes.
Yeah.
And some aren't. And, like, some are both. I would argue pretty easily that I am both an asshole and not an asshole, depending on what the situation calls for. But, like, of course. Of course.
It's been interesting that, as a blogger, I don't see it as much. As
me being an asshole?
No. I don't see people saying, like, you must be like blogger XYZ because you're a blogger, you're an atheist, you must be angry. I don't really hear that much.
Oh, that's interesting.
I definitely don't hear it with podcasting. No one says like, oh, you're...
Nobody listens.
Because no one's listening. But on YouTube, where most of my videos are about like atheism 101. Yeah, and they criticize everything about how I look. It's so weird.
I'm never going to go on YouTube ever in my entire life.
Man, they're harsh. But on YouTube, I do get this a lot where they're like, when people talk about YouTube atheists, I know what they mean. And I'm like,
100%.
I don't talk
and
about
I also
other
think
topics.
there's a specific, I think there's also a phase aspect of atheism, especially if you've come out of faith or you're just like learning about kind of the things that are sort of commonplace to people who
have been atheists,
have been atheists for a while and have kind of settled into like I only certain things set me off in a blind rage. But when you're just having your eyes opened to it, everything's sort of triggering this like anger thing. So there's definitely an element that I understand. Like I've never been one that came out of religion, but I get the idea of like I've just spent the last 20, 25, 40 years in this religion and now I see it for what it is and I'm fucking mad about it. But yeah, I mean, it's a certain brand. It's the same as anything. Just people get mad about shit.
Yeah, there's always going to be bad eggs, in your opinion, in any group you're in. Yeah. So, yeah. Here's a different question. How many of you left because of bad experiences with the church or some other group of people in your religion? To which I would say, I think a lot of people, for a lot of atheists, that may very well be what spurs it. But I've never met anyone who said, I'm an atheist because... Oh, I'm sorry. I have heard this sometimes, but it's not often. I left religion because my church just was bad. That's usually the first domino.
Sure.
But it takes several more for them to say, I don't believe in God anymore. Maybe I leave that church.
I was just about to say,
and I go to a different
many
one.
people who leave their specific church or religion and find something maybe a little bit less intense or like not a cult. There's I can't think of the documentary, but have you ever heard of the Church of God?
I don't know.
It was a cult in like the 80s and 90s. It's like bonkers, bananas, crazy. Like it was very oppressive, very abusive, like promoted sex among children. It was a really insane, crazy cult. And there was a documentary. I think I found it on YouTube. That's where I find my documentaries. But anyway, it's about this one family's story. It's this British family and a mother, and she has a few daughters, one of whom died in the cult because they wouldn't let her get medical attention, one of whom had a baby really young, like all this shit. And anyway, they all got out of the cult, and they showed sort of their after story. You know, it's this 26-year-old girl with 4 kids because she was in a cult, and that's what happens when white men run cults. But my point to all of this is to say that this woman who brought her children into a cult and destroyed lives, left one of her daughters dead, still goes to church every Sunday. So I don't think that it's a, one-in-one thing of my church is shitty, therefore I'm an atheist. It's my church is shitty, so like I need to find another path.
Right.
So I don't think I'd be curious if that's more of a triggers a thinking critically thing.
That may be a thing. I think a lot of people are spurred to question their faith because of a bad experience, but that's not the reason they suddenly just stop believing. Just because your pastor was not good or you met someone who's a bad Christian, that doesn't make you not believe in God. That just makes you question, like, oh, I guess my religion isn't all it's cracked up to be. I should do some more research into this.
Well, and you can argue that, like, they're perpetrators of this bad garbage. Like, they are actively acting against what their religion calls for, and they still practice. Yeah. Obviously, I'm thinking of Catholic priests. They're such an easy target.
Oh, we'll get to that.
There's more.
Do you ever have doubts like we do?
No. I mean, no. I mean, I don't know. Like sometimes coincidences happen. I'm like, oh, that's pretty bonkers.
Yeah, I think that's about as far as it gets for me. Once you've thought through this whole thing and you're like, okay, you know what? I don't think there's anything supernatural out there, so I'm an atheist. I don't know. I feel like it's very hard to get me to think, well, I guess this thing is supernatural because I've already reasoned my way through that.
Right.
But I can totally see how if you haven't thought through this stuff, if you're religious, I could see how there are things that make you question God.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know a lot of atheists who say, no, I think God could exist because this thing happened. I haven't heard that discussion happen.
No,
I haven't felt that
I don't think
either.
it's very common. And I will say about myself, like, I'm a sucker for storytelling. So if somebody tells a really compelling story that the root of it is like this crazy coincidence that, like, oh, God must have, doesn't make me believe more in God, but I like, that's a good story to tell of like, oh, somebody connected the dots for us.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, because that's the whole basis of atheism, right? Is the, like, what if you're wrong?
Right.
And they talk about that all the time. And you know,
and usually we laugh it off because we have, it's not like this is a new argument to us, Pascal's Wager.
Thank you.
We have thought this thing through. It's always funny. I mean, I've heard people give talks where atheists will mention Pascal's Wager or the description of it. And we all laugh in the crowd because every time a religious person brings it up, it's always like, let me throw this one at you because you've never heard it before. Yes, and that's the reaction. Like, my God, we've heard this every time.
Oh, like they bring it up like, got you, atheist.
Checkmate, yeah.
Do we assume everybody knows Pascal's Wager? Go ahead and
sure, Pascal's Wager, if you believe in God, the argument is you should believe in God because if you do and you're right, you get to go to heaven. And if you're wrong and God doesn't exist, the worst thing in believing in it is you wasted some time.
Right.
But if you don't believe in God and I mean, if you're right, great, I guess you're still going to die. But if you're wrong and you don't believe in God, you're going to suffer in hell for all of eternity. So, like, if you game theory out this whole thing...
it is like the definition of game theory, isn't it?
Yeah, you should then believe in God. But that's the stupid thing, because they totally ignore the fact that, what if you believe in the wrong God?
I mean,
and what about all that wasted time and money and energy?
Well, and it's such a black and white way to look at the world because that is too.
And do you think I'm just suddenly gonna believe because it's like mathematically? I guess it's right.
No,
so I
that's
guess
a good point because
like,
belief doesn't work that way.
It's not sincere.
But also, you have to think of like, you know, they say, okay, what do you have to gain? What do you have to lose? And what do you have to lose is like, oh, you go to church on Sundays or whatever. But like, I feel like we could argue, what do you have to lose? Like, I don't know, as a woman, my independence and self-sufficiency and, you know, my clit. I'm so sorry. I said clit.
FCC is going to come after us.
Oh, they're going to get it. But like, yeah, there's a ton I can lose by going with the religion just to be safe. And like, what a garbage way to live your life is to sort of like, ugh. Okay.
Another question. Do you assume that a member of a religion believes every single thing that religion preaches?
I don't assume it, but I also kind of feel that they're accountable for it.
It's one of those things that's weird. Like, if you're a Catholic...
How do you drink caffeine at 9:45 at night?
Oh, I could drink, like, a giant thing of coffee right now, and I would fall... I don't sleep.
It's true. Anytime Hemant texts me about this show, it's at like 3 a.m. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
I coach the high school team too, and they always make fun of me because like my emails to them about like I'm editing one of their talks or something. It's like, what? Did you email me at 3:30? I'm like, what's wrong with this? I don't get why this.
But then you also email me like 6. So I don't. When I get an email from you at 6 o'clock, I don't know if you're still up or up already.
Are we talking AM or PM?
Who fucking cares? I'm sorry, I threw us way off track because you're just like fucking housed at Diet Pepsi, Wild Cherry.
It's delish.
It's pretty good. No, but I'm sorry. So yeah. Do I expect somebody... So somebody tells me they're Catholic. So I have a lot of family who is Catholic. I know for a fact they don't believe in all of it because I have seen firsthand them super not do. But I also...
but if you're giving money to the church...
If you're giving money in the church.
What are you giving the money for? I mean, it is to advance these certain set of values and things. So you might be a Catholic who uses birth control. You shouldn't be. And the church actively opposes birth control and contraception. If you have an abortion, you're doing something the church doesn't want you to do.
I'll tell you, all of the Catholics I know in my life have been on birth control and / or have had abortions.
Yeah. And so the question is like...
a massively Catholic community.
So obviously, religious people don't believe in every single thing their church teaches, which is to our point, which is you're cherry picking everything anyway. What is it that you believe?
Okay. Here's what I will put forth. And you know I don't like defending religious people. I'm just kidding. They're fine. You're a Democrat, right?
Me? Have you listened to this show?
That was a rhtorical question, but thank you for calling me out.
Do I like everything the Democrats do?
That's what I'm saying.
No.
So is it? But you
so much.
Yeah. I know.
But in general...
But you're a Democrat.
I am.
How is that? And this isn't me trying to lock you in a corner, but can you talk me through the difference there? Because
sure.
I honestly don't know.
I feel like I can help move the party more to the left by speaking out in favor of the things I like. So we've talked about this before. When the election came around, of course I voted for Hillary Clinton. But in the primaries in Illinois, I voted for Bernie. Why?
That's one of our first just chatty episodes.
It was.
Yeah.
And why? Because it's you know what? I know he's not going to win the primary.
I don't think he's dragging Hillary
but he's dragging her to the left, and I like that, and I want to move the rest of the party that way. So good. But religion specifically says you're not going to move us on these issues, even though some of them have on LGBT issues.
Okay, so say I'm Catholic and say I don't believe everything the Catholic Church does, but I believe most of it.
So I think there is a difference, which is
I'm devil's advocate and I like hard.
It. But the difference is the Catholic Church says this is what you have to believe. These are the non-negotiable things about our faith.
That's a good point.
At least with the political party, they very specifically can and do change all the time based on what they think their party wants.
That's a really good point.
So it doesn't bother me. I don't know that it's a perfect analogy, but at least within the Democratic Party, yeah, of course I don't like everything, but there are things I can fight for. And I'm not a heretic for saying so.
You're not outcast by questioning a single thing.
But I think this just goes to show in religion, if you say you are a non-denominational Christian, okay, I can assume you believe you believe that Jesus died for our sins. You believe God answers your prayer or listens to your prayers.
I believe you describe yourself as spiritual.
And it's even if you go to that though, but when you say you're Catholic, that's a very specific thing. Mm-hmm. I do wonder, how many Catholics have we talked to in life, not on the podcast per se, who don't think a consecrated communion wafer is the literal body of Christ? They don't know their own faith. They're no, it's just a metaphor. No, your Catholic Church says it's literally Jesus. You are eating Jesus.
No, you're 100%
If you don't believe that, why are you calling yourself a Catholic? That's one of the non-negotiables.
And where's the line drawn for you?
Yeah.
Okay, if you're willing to think that transubstantiation isn't a real thing, then but Jesus rising from the grave was definitely for sure.
It's not like young earth creationism versus evolution. Even Christians will say it's not a point of salvation. You could believe what you want to about that. But when it comes to Catholicism or something specific, transubstantiation isn't up for debate.
No, yeah.
This is the rule. So I don't get that. So I know they don't believe everything the religion preaches necessarily. But in some cases, I really do wonder why they belong to that tribe when they don't believe in the essential parts of it.
Because it's complicated. Because it's so much more complicated than that. It's your whole family and everybody you know and everybody you've ever met goes to the church, and so that's what you have to do. As somebody who grew up non-religious, I'm exceedingly empathetic toward people who feel like I have to go through the motions because this is what's expected of me. Because I think everybody has that in their life, right? Of I don't think I don't think this, but I'm not gonna argue with it right now, or I'm just gonna go through the motions. I don't want to say
it makes me comfortable,
right? It makes me comfortable, and it decreases the chance that I'll fight with my parents on Christmas, right. Which I think everybody's down to avoid.
I'm gonna ask one more question, then we'll move on to a different thing, which is, why do you think anyone else? I'm going to wait till you're done drinking. Why do you think? Why do you think anyone else cares? Because this is the stereotype of atheist, right? It's kind of like being a vegan.
Cares about my atheism?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody else cares.
I think the stereotype, though, is we all know you're an atheist because you can't stop talking about it.
Yeah.
You tell everyone. But I'll tell you why I think everyone... why do I think anyone else cares? Because people do complain about, why do you post about this? Why are you complaining about God? Just don't believe and move on with your life. Because to me, religion gets in the way of so many good things, and that bothers me, and I want to fight against that.
So I can't remember what the context was, but I'm in a Facebook group that's a private secret, whatever. And I mentioned something about atheism or atheist or whatever. And this woman commented on it saying because it talked about the movement. Because somebody in the comments talked about how our movement, the problem with the atheist movement is it's too... It was a word for pro-women that I can't remember off the top of my head. It was just It was because we talked about the red pill and people freaked the fuck out. Guys, we don't care. Like, don't stop talking to us about that. I could not care about anything less than I care about the red pill. But anyway, somebody said it was like histocentric or something. But anyway, so I posted that because I was like, fuck white guys, as usual, as is my mantra. But anyway, somebody commented like, I don't get, because we were talking about the atheist movement and women in the atheist movement, and is it plagued by misogyny and yada, yada, yada. And somebody's like, I don't get the, quote, atheist movement. I don't believe in unicorns. There's no unicorn movement. And I just commented, well, if your boss told you couldn't get birth control because a unicorn told him so, then you might care about unicorns. And it was like, for me, my peak social media movement of like, I've been waiting for like 8 years for somebody to say that phrase to me because I've had that teed up and ready to go. It was so meaningful. Anyway, what were we asking?
I don't know anymore.
Why do we care?
Why do we care?
I don't.
I wish we didn't have to.
I don't want to care. I have so much shit I need to do. I'm so backed up in my Etsy shop. I don't want to be worried about whether or not like some 25-year-old woman can get birth control even though she works at Hobby Lobby because our insurance bullshit is such garbage that it depends on her employer like pulling this. I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
We've decided this shit. Women are mom's generation and her mom's generation marched with this for years and years and years. So we don't have to have this goddamn debate anymore. But you guys, you won't let it go. We have Donald Trump pretending he's Christian. Like, of all of the garbage he says, I'm sorry, you think you're a Christian, sir? Sir with 3 marriages? Sir grabbing by the pussy? I'm sorry.
That was in the Bible. He was just quoting it.
I just don't... Anyway, we've talked about this, right? Of like, this election meant, quote-unquote, Christian conservatives don't care about Christianity. They care about like fucking over poor people and fucking over immigrants and fucking over women. If they get power,
that's what they want.
And they have been following through.
They're not the family values people like they claim to be.
I don't understand. Okay. Excuse me. I don't understand how...
Where did you pull that soapbox out from?
I don't understand, and I probably say this every episode, and I get this amped up about it, a party that calls itself family values. Because they do. Ever since, what was it, the 70s when they like invaded the South and were like, you're one of us now, when they infiltrated their religious right.
The religious right, started in the 70s, really.
So at that point, they kind of...
after that.
Yeah, they kind of brought in like, oh yeah, we're Baptists too. Look at, praise Jesus. We can do it too. Look at my arms. For that same party to claim these family values and claim we're the party of family and aggressively take away benefits for families is untenable and it's fucked up. And it leaves them wide open for me to say this. Y'all are fucking racist. Like, you don't care. You don't care about, like, poor urban youth. I don't care how much you say family values. If a family isn't a married couple, the dad's employed, the mom stays at home, and they have kids, and they're in their 20s, and they're Christian, you don't give a flying fuck about them. So stop pretending you're the family... I'm sorry, I got off on a rant. I'm sorry. It's been a hard week, haven't it?
Yes. Yes, it has.
Tomorrow's Jeans Day at work, though, so I'm pretty psyched.
Casual Friday.
It's not Casual Friday, it's Jeans Friday. Usually Casual Friday is still like, wear a blazer, but like...
I don't know, I don't wear
a full pantsuit. Oh my God. Okay, Hammond, can we talk about how I can make this my full-time job? Guys, donate to Patreon. I just want to hang out with my dog and yell in a microphone. Why is that? That feels like a really reasonable career.
It should be if it's
not.
I
think it should be.
All right, this will piss you off. I'll wait till you take a drink until I say this one. There's a debate in Missouri. They are debating a bill that would have included an amendment prohibiting discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation.
Oh, I sure hope.
I don't know why we're debating people's rights, but yep, they were trying to pass this bill. And that was an amendment. It was part of a larger bill, but they wanted to make sure you can't discriminate against people who are gay, whatever, LGBT. To which a state representative, a Republican, surprise, Rick Bratton.
A Republican. Rick Bratton?
Rick Bratton.
Hashtag
he
white
said,
guy name. There's one episode now, I think.
I'm going to just quote this. He was fighting against the discrimination amendment because he wants to discriminate because that's what he does with his faith. And he said, quote, when you look at the tenets of religion, of the Bible, of the Quran, of other religions, I am quoting here, there is a distinction between homosexuality and just being a human being. What's the distinction between homosexuality and human beings? Which I guess he's right, because homosexuals are awesome.
Holy shit.
Way better than human beings. But what the hell is he... Who says that?
So this is... You know what? Here's the thing. The thing is this. Sometimes it's satisfying to hear these Republicans, these conservatives, actually say what they mean.
Yeah, he wasn't coding that one.
Right, and that's what I kind of talked about in the last year about Trump, of he's saying all of the things that Republicans have been dog whistling for years.
Yeah, women should be punished for an abortion,
exactly.
Things like that.
And that's always been like the subtext and the dog whistle of what the GOP is saying. There's something, and refreshing isn't the right word, but I'm going to use it anyway, refreshing about like, oh yeah, I don't see gay people as full human beings.
Yeah.
And he's and I feel like we see that a lot with women of
they don't really love the sinner, hate the sin. They hate the sinner too.
They hate everybody who doesn't look and act like them.
Yeah.
Well, and you see that, and there's like subtleties when you hear somebody like Trump talking about when he talks to a crowd and like, oh, we're not going to let them do a thing. But he'll say things like, oh, we're not going to let women boss us around, which isn't a quote. But
idea.
He uses phraseology like that says, I am talking to men, and men are my target audience, and women aren't other.
And Christians who agree with me or whatever.
Right.
And maybe you would hope that sort of bluntness makes people realize, oh, this is all fucked up, this stuff that we believe.
Because Republicans, if it doesn't personally affect them, Republicans don't give a shit about it. And that's what I find fucking beyond infuriating. That, like, no Republicans gave a shit about gay rights until, like, oh, my son's gay. Like, oh, did you know they're real people? Like, yeah, dude, I've known that for my whole life. And so this guy can go jump up his own ass. But also, you know what? At least he's fucking blunt. At least he's not using weird coded language and, like, calling them sinners or calling them whatever. Yeah. But also, guys, you're running the country and you represent everybody. And that means me, and it means Hemant, and it means gay people.
By the way, that amendment that he was fighting against didn't make it into the bill then. So he won that battle. So they're not humans. And the bill that ultimately passed will, quote, make it more difficult to sue for discrimination.
Oh, good.
According to the newspaper article about it.
That's super been the problem all along. Is like people are just like, oh, I love to be discriminated against. I get so much good press and I get so much money for it.
If you guys could see Jessica's dancing as she says that.
I'm mad.
Yes. Rick Bratton, by the way, has a history of dumbass stuff.
How dare he have that name?
He once, I'm going to quote here, he proposed requiring the father's consent before an abortion, except in cases of, quote, legitimate rape. Missouri, same state as Aiken.
Missouri, what the fuck are y'all doing?
He also suggested college football players who refuse to play for political reasons should just lose their scholarships. He wants creationism taught in school. I mean, he's every stereotype rolled into one.
Can I see his picture? Do you have his picture pulled up?
Yeah.
Or can you just like describe him to me?
White.
Paint a word picture.
White.
Obviously he's white. Okay, so I'm imagining him like white, like Paul Ryan hair.
I'm showing you the picture.
Oh, he's younger than I thought he would be.
He is pretty young.
So he's just an asshole.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't even have the excuse of like, I'm 60, so I'm set in my ways. He's like 35, 40.
Ish.
He's our age-ish. Yeah, fuck that guy. Fuck that guy and his whole life philosophy. And like, what is he gaining by that? That's my question. What is he gaining here? Because that's what
he's pushing his religion That's what he wants.
He's trying to earn brownie points, right?
With the Christian side, maybe he actually believes it, but
he's a bad person.
I know it's a joke online, but every time they bring up the fact when people are so anti-gay, they're probably hiding something.
They always
Who
are.
knows?
And
Someone quoted, "It's Haggard's law."
I just think it's one of those things that like I live a very real live and let live philosophy that until you're trying to push your garbage onto me, let's just like let bygones be
It really
bygones.
is a low priority for me if he just happened to believe crazy shit.
Right.
You're not on my radar. But when people ask like, why do atheists care and why do you complain so much about God? It's
because
this guy's in
Rick
power.
White guy cares.
He's in power. He gets to make laws, and it's infuriating.
And the red pill guy, hey guys, did you know the red pill is the same as men's right activism? I sure am glad you all sent me those links. Thanks, everyone.
We love your emails. Keep sending them. I have one more story for you.
Fine.
Which is the Answers in Genesis. This is Ken Ham's Creation Museum Ark Encounter Group.
Ken Ham, I'm not familiar. Can you tell me all about him?
He's a creationist.
What's Genesis again?
Genesis is the
it's
Bible
Sega Genesis.
Beginning. God created the world.
Twice.
Twice.
I don't want to brag, but I did read
You got
Genesis.
You got through 1 and 2
I
there.
got through 1 and 2.
Yeah.
I didn't find out until I was 22 that there were 2 versions of Genesis. So
Yeah, and they contradict each other. You should. I mean, if you're taking the Bible literally, it contradicts itself on the
funnily
first
enough,
page.
the second round of Genesis was Adam and Steve. So like,
Hey,
there's a huge twist.
who knew? Answers in
Somebody should have
Genesis
read that.
was so excited. They were parading this from the rooftop that one of their like staff geologists, because this is Answers in Genesis.
Can we make sure we put quotes around
big
geologists?
air quotes. They do have a few PhDs on staff, and this is always interesting because a couple of those PhDs come from Christian schools, and you can question how credible those PhDs really are. But here's the thing. This is backdrop for this story.
Okay.
There are some PhDs on their staff who work with them or for them who have PhDs from legit schools and earned legit PhDs.
And they work for Ken Ham.
And this is the thing.
Do you think he pays really well?
I think they have nowhere else to go.
Oh, yeah.
But here's the interesting thing, because this happened years ago. The New York Times even wrote an article about this maybe about a decade ago, where there was a guy who is a creationist, but he went to a public university, studied whatever the hell he studied, geology, something like that, like a legit science.
Yeah.
And basically, he wrote his thesis and did the research. And if you read the paper, he refers to an Earth that's whatever millions of years or life is being.
So he
millions.
towed the line.
He totally played the scientist line and everything. But if you ask him, do you actually believe the Earth is this old or humans have been around for this long? He's like, no, the Earth was created like 6,000 years ago. So the question is
that
this.
feels like a waste of a lot of time and effort and money.
Right?
Can you imagine getting your PhD? Well, you have your master's, right?
I have my master's, yeah.
So how much work was that?
It wasn't much.
Oh, Jesus.
It's really sad.
Heaven, come
I
on.
mean, it was a lot of time, but like seriously, it wasn't
Well,
hard.
regardless.
But
okay.
if you do a PhD, you were doing real work. And
Unlike
this guy,
you,
unlike
a
me,
master.
I just had to go to class. I studied a few days.
That's
I
how
took
I got
tests,
through college.
Right?
I just showed up and paid mild attention.
Yeah, I paid off
What's
my
up, Ball State
paid
University?
off tuition. It's like, all right, I'm done now.
Do you have student loans left?
No.
Nice, good for you.
Yeah.
Cheers.
This guy got his PhD.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't believe any of it. But they're like, why did you go through all this?
Great question.
Because he's like, because this will give me credibility to promote creationism, more or less. And like, I have a PhD. You have to introduce me as a doctor now.
I super kind of respect it for that.
It's kind of ingenious.
It's
the long game.
I mean, it's the same way. Like, I'm technically a reverend or a pastor or something like that because I'm online.
Yeah.
I've officiated 2 weddings now.
Nicely
Both are
done.
still on. So
Hey, you did your job.
100%. But like, I kind of get his logic.
I mean, it's hard to
that is
disagree. He
Here's the
did
thing.
everything you would expect. And the question that the New York Times raised at the time was,
What the fuck is the point?
Should the school have given him a PhD? And everyone that they talked to, all the professors who guided him and mentored him, they said he did the work we asked him to do. He defended the thesis that he wrote.
Right.
He did everything.
Yeah.
How can we deny him the PhD even if he doesn't believe it?
I don't want to say it's unprecedented, but it's probably not common that somebody would put... I mean, how many years does it take to get a doctorate?
It's
6
a few
years?
years at least.
And the time and expense that goes into doing it. I will say this. Important question. I don't know if you have this picture up. Is he a white guy?
That one was. I don't know who else they have on staff who fulfills
but this particular guy who did this.
Yeah.
I would say that this guy is in a place of immense privilege that he was able to like go through undergrad, graduate school, get his doctorate, and like be confident enough that he was going to do this garbage experiment. So he got this like doctor in front of his name, even though he doesn't believe. So he spent what 6
however
years?
Long it
so
was.
Say 6 years
to
get your doctorate. That's based on literally nothing. I have my undergrad, and that's all. So he spent 6 years of his life and however much it costs to do that.
Or that you're giving up by not taking on a job because you're doing your PhD.
Exactly. So he was able to give all that so he had credibility to his name. So he was either being supported or was confident that he was going to leave his doctoral program with a job. Like, wow, dude, like, sounds like
things are good.
Things are fine with you. I don't know who's paying your rent for those 6 years, but like, I'm super happy.
Yeah, and I don't know his story, everything about it.
I'm super happy that everything you could have, if you're smart enough to get your doctorate in what, geology we said?
Something like that.
Geology-ish, geology adjacent, you're using your brain power to like spite the very field that gave you a doctorate.
You know what?
Hammett. Paleontology!
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's what he did.
Up your baby.
Marcus Ross was his name.
Of course his name was Marcus.
Paleontologist, did all the work, got his
White
doctorate.
guy, show me his picture again.
I don't know. There's no picture. Oh,
it's
no,
really
there's
important for me.
All right, picture.
It's much better looking than I expected him to be. That's very disappointing. I hate him. Yeah, no, you know what? Fuck that guy. Like, he could have done...
He also said,
like him,
I feel like I should say this. He said, why do you want to study at a secular university? He said, it'll help me, I'll acquire the training that will make me a good paleontologist regardless of which paradigm I was using.
No, fuck that guy.
Anyway,
honestly,
he's not even part of the story. The reason I bring him up,
the story
that was not the story we're talking about.
How
I bring that up.
3 hours?
The reason I bring it up is because there's another guy who works at Answers in Genesis. This guy's name is Andrew Snelling, and he's older.
Can we talk about other white guy names that have been happening to me?
They only, you know what's funny
Snelling?
about Snelling?
That is a movie villain. He runs a toy company, but he hates kids.
Save your ire for the actual things that are wrong with this guy.
I have so much ire to pass around.
He got his doctorate in geology at the University of Sydney, 1982. Legit school, legit degree. This is not easy to do.
Sydney's a lovely city.
And for the next decade or so in the 80s...
he did great work and gave back to charity.
Not only did he do... I don't know if he gave it back to charity. Not only did he do great work, he published peer review research in legit journals. But here's where it gets interesting.
I'm waiting for the time.
I know. At the same time that he's publishing these mainstream articles in credible journals, he's also publishing articles in the fake creationist research journals.
Catfishing science?
Yes. He's writing articles for creationist publications saying, by the way, the Earth is 6,000 years old, and here's what... But he's also publishing legit articles. Why? Maybe for the same reason, partly, as the other guy, which is it helps him be more credible as a creationist to say, look, I have a PhD. I have been published in journals. I have peer-reviewed papers published.
Yeah, but dude, science is science.
But not for saying the Earth is 6,000 years old. I'll save that for over here.
But that's the thing. It's like, the thing with science is that, okay, so yeah, he's published peer-reviewed
which means
shit.
all those articles, he believes he's lying, which is weird.
Well, so he understands how the scientific process works.
Yes.
He just has a disdain for it that is immense.
He thinks he's doing this.
So
he thinks he's doing the same work, but when he explains it, he'll use the game of science and use their terminology and their ages.
To what fucking to make
credibility?
No, I get.
So that's not the story yet.
Here's my question, Hammett. Yes. I do have a question. I'm holding my microphone because this is important.
He's white.
That wasn't what I was going to ask, but I do appreciate that particular bit of insight. So I'm going to use get as a big quote.
Okay.
I get why people care about being anti-vax. And I get why people care about, like, oh, we don't believe in doctors, we do this. So I get, like, the motivation of, like, their ultimate goal is that our God... What is the goal of young Earth creationists? Like, what do they want to see happen? What is the results they're hoping for?
It's not salvation. They think, their argument is, if you want to take the Bible seriously, and all good Christians should take the Bible seriously, that begins on page 1. If you don't buy into what the Bible is saying in terms of a 6-day creation like the book of Genesis says, how could you possibly take the resurrection of Jesus seriously later on? Because it makes no sense to them that the Old Testament is all full of metaphor, but we take literally the Gospels in the New Testament. So Ken Hand's argument is, you don't have to believe in it. You'll still go to heaven if you disagree with me, but you believe in the rest of the Christian stuff. But if you don't agree with page 1, how could you possibly agree with the rest of it? So to him, this is the key. So when we
talk about...
it's the foundation, is what he'll say.
That's fair. And maybe this is definitely an unfair question to ask you, but so we talked about already the Genesis thing. There were 2 Geneses. Is that the plural?
I forgot what his explanation. This is one of his, like,
but
he gets asked all the time.
He
has an answer for it. I don't remember what his answer is.
I'm sure he has a canned answer for it, but like the thing is, if you take something literally, there's a very specific definition of literal.
Yeah.
You know, like, you take it for its word. So the moment you start to explain away anything, it's done. Like, you can't. If you want to talk about the Bible as a book of morals and a book of metaphors, and your Amos tales.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh my God.
That's all right.
The thing about, like, how the leopard got its spots.
Aesop's Fables? You're welcome.
Who's Amos?
I have no idea.
Famous Amos.
That's very different.
Is that a cookie?
That is a cookie.
Anyway, it's late and I've had a week. Have I told you guys I've had a week? What was I talking?
We were talking about
why. So if we want to talk about the Bible as, like, your Aesop's Fables, and, like, oh, of course, the leopard didn't literally get its spots because it was scared or something, but, like, there's a moral there,
right?
Fine. Like,
if you were using these stories to teach a moral, that's one thing.
You have to pick one or the other. You can't waffle between the two, because
he has a way around it. He finds a way to rationalize everything.
Because he, like, you know how big Ken Hand's suits are? He just keeps, like, all of his talking points in, like, the sleeves. Can we talk about how big his suits are?
Let's talk about getting back to this, because Andrew Snelling, the geologist with a legit degree who has been peer-reviewed, recently, like a few years ago, he tried to apply for a permit to do, quote-unquote, research at the Grand Canyon. And if you want to do research at the Grand Canyon,
I just want to blow it up and see what's inside.
No, you have to apply. I think he wanted to dig up certain types of rocks that he was probably going to use to say, look, Noah's great flood, whatever. But you have to fill out an application. Because it's a government institution, the Grand Canyon, so the government has to, like, say yes to your application.
Sure.
That application says, basically, tell us what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, obviously, and we need recommendations from peers who do the work you do, who say, yep, this is a legit proposal and this is good work. And really want to.
Legit.
And this guy's legit. But more, this is a good proposal, and we want to see what happens. So you should approve his idea here. He applied for it. He gave 3 recommendation letters to go with it. No, there wasn't Ken Ham, but there were 3 people.
Sorry.
Different group.
It's Catholic.
He gave 3 recommendations. All of them were other creationists, which is...
You don't fucking say, Hammett.
I know. So 3 creationists. So the lady who is in charge of granting permits,
There's like one human.
There's one human who grants the permits, and she had some doubts about this proposal. So she sends...
What's her name? Is it Agnes?
Rhonda.
I was close.
So Rhonda sends it
Rhonda's
off
the
to
hero
a
of this
different...
story already.
She already is. She sends it off to a University of New Mexico professor whose awesome name is Carl Karlstrom. She's like, hey, I've worked with you before. Can you look over this proposal? Because I don't know what I'm assuming.
Hey, fakey fake name.
She sent it to him. She's like, hey, what can you tell me about this guy, this proposal, these people he's asking?
And he just sent back a gif of the jack-off motion.
Yes. He writes back basically, all these people represent the aggressive approach of the Creation Science Institute. They put forward semi-reputable scientists who try to cast doubt on science. They use the results to bolster their avowed creationist agenda. So he actually then went on to say, here's why the proposal makes no sense. So while he might have said like these he didn't just say their creationists say no to them. He said, yeah, they're creationists and that's messed up. But let me tell you in detail, because I'm telling you, I read the proposal.
Oh, you read it?
I read it. I mean, I looked it over. But I'm like, I don't know what the hell this guy's talking about.
Off that so quickly.
I know. Because he's talking about geology.
Yeah.
And I don't know geology. So he's using big words. He's using science-sounding words. I don't know what he's talking about. Karlstrom knew what this guy was talking about, and he said he's just wrong about the things he's saying. He doesn't know the subject he's talking about.
Wait, is this... I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I got lost. Yeah. Is this the same guy who got his PhD in the garbage thing?
He got it from Sydney, Australia. Legit.
Okay, so
geology.
It's a guy who, in theory, should be able to write a paper that passes the smell test.
Yeah, so Rhonda, she doesn't know what necessarily he's saying, can't vouch for how good it is.
Rhonda, you have an open invitation to come on this show whenever you want to.
But Carl Karlstrom does know what he's talking about. Carl writes back, I do not see this proposal as a scientifically valid research proposal. It is not well formulated based on current knowledge of Grand Canyon geology, the nature of microstructures of soft sediment structures in general, nor of the microstructures and model of formation of monoclines. I mean,
Carl
basically saying
you're the hero.
The science behind this thing makes no sense. And he said, this proposed work does not seem to me to be of the scientific standard required for a park research permit. Okay, so that's good.
Carlson, I owe you a drink.
What does Rhonda...
You know what? It's the fucking park rangers and the scientists who are saving this goddamn country.
So Rhonda gets this, and she's like, well, okay, that makes a lot of sense, what he's saying and why he thinks it's not valid. But just to double check, she knows another guy who does valid research. His name is Peter Huntoon of the University of Wyoming. And the reason she asked him for his opinion...
sounds like he might not be white.
I don't know
what to do with that information.
No idea. She sends it to him. And
where did you say, Wyoming?
Wyoming. So he's white. I waited till you drank. The reason she asked him for his opinion on this is because Snelling, in his proposal, he literally cited Huntoon's work to justify his proposal. Like he was in the work cited.
About that?
It doesn't matter because it's his work and this guy's citing it saying...
Oh, so he just pulled from like a published paper of his.
Yeah, and said, look, this guy found this and I'm going to expand on that and do this. So she asked Huntoon, hey, what do you think about this? He writes back.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
I'm just selecting parts here. The outcomes are clearly foregone. The objective is to create doubt, not among scientists, but among the public whom creationists hope to sway to their belief systems. Blah, blah, blah. This perpetually creates noise and distraction throughout public discourse on everything. He says creationists create noise and distraction on everything. It's like doing the health risks of smoking to the validity of global warming. These are anti-science people. And then he added to Rhonda, I'm a bit annoyed that the U.S. National Park Service would send yet another one of these proposals for me to wade through, because it's basically junk.
This guy is. Literally anybody in this story, if you ever come to the Chicagoland area, I will buy you all of the drinks, and I just want to hang out with you.
I know. Rhonda sent it to one other guy who basically wrote back. Third guy? It is difficult to review such an outlandish proposal. The author seems to have a total lack of understanding of the topic.
Shade.
I'm not sure what else to say about this. So all this happens. Rhonda has weighed a lot. She weighed all of this information.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure it's really balanced.
Yeah. And she ended up saying, I'm skipping over parts of the story here because it's a little more complicated, but basically she says, we're not granting your permit. Yeah. There's a lot of other things you need to do.
Crazy person.
And not just that, she's like, based on what everyone else has said, the research you want to do, you don't need to go to the Grand Canyon to do it. You could do it at other areas.
You could just read the Bible and be like, well,
if you're, I think she said like if you're looking for a certain type of material.
Was he's trying to prove the 6,000?
I'm sure that's ultimately what his goal was, but that wasn't part of his proposal.
Okay.
But she said if you want to look at these rocks, you don't need to go to the Grand Canyon. You could do it elsewhere. So why are you bothering us about this? This is not something you need us.
Because I'm sure
to do.
digging in the Grand Canyon is not something that's taken lightly.
No, it's not. Exactly. And so anyway, she said no. I think he tried responding with a revised proposal later on, but it was still rejected for basically the same reason. So ended up this week, Answers in Genesis, on behalf of Andrew Snelling, filed a lawsuit. They filed a lawsuit saying the Grand Canyon and basically everyone involved in this story is discriminating against him on the basis of religion.
Yeah, you know why? Because they super are.
Yeah. It's not to do with his religion because Christians do this sort of research all the time, and it's fine.
I mean, it is discriminating on them against their religion because they are trying to force their religion into science, and they're not having that garbage.
But I don't think that's why they did it because
I hope it's why they did it.
Even if this is what Answers in Genesis is arguing because they're saying if that's the reason you are discriminating against us.
Yeah.
And what the Grand Canyon people are saying is that has nothing to do with it. If you did legit research,
you put a garbage paper to us.
Yes, that's what the Grand Canyon people are saying.
Hey, guess what? You don't get fucking special privileges because you have like a cross in the top right corner of your paper. No, get the fuck out of town with this.
This is the difference. The Grand Canyon people are saying if you gave us a legit proposal and you ended up using that research to promote creationism, not our job. We don't care what you do with that information.
At least give us a clean proposal.
Yes. Grand Canyon people are saying
at least have the
your
respect for
sucked.
science.
Yes.
Fuck
That's their argument.
What's
but this
his name?
is Andrew Snelling. So anyway, Answers in Genesis.
Snelling.
They're going to court.
Have made up a worse name.
We don't know what it's early, so who knows what the judge will do with this. But that's the thing. This is not religious discrimination. And if you want more...
That's the thing. Is nobody gives a shit about religion, but this kind of shit is happening all the time, that they're trying to aggressively shove their religion into our science for no specific reason. Like, dude, if you don't want to believe in science, then fine, don't.
Right.
But don't pretend to take scientific data and mold that to what you believe in. That's fucking garbage.
And again, if he was doing legit science and then decided to draw his own conclusions... But he wasn't doing legit science.
He's a garbage person. He's a garbage human, and I hate him.
Here's one thing I found interesting. Answers in Genesis put out a press release, of course, about their lawsuit, as they should, and they do. He's being defended because Answers in Genesis is not a legal group. They need lawyers to help them out. They have the backing of a right-wing legal group called Alliance Defending Freedom. Alliance Defending Freedom put out their own press release about this.
Said Lions Defending Freedom, and I was like, of course.
Yeah.
Alliance
Defending Freedom. But both of them put out their press releases, and they included, of course, a link to the lawsuit. But here's the thing. That lawsuit it's 22 pages long, but it doesn't include any of the stuff I just explained to you, except in the broadest of details. It just says, we submitted a proposal, we had references, and it was rejected. And that's kind of all Answers in Genesis and the ADF said. And so I'm like... Well, I wonder what because they all keep referencing.
Because presumably the reason there are proposals is some get rejected.
Yeah. Well,
right?
They kept saying in the lawsuit, look at Exhibit A, look at Exhibit B. And I'm like, well, where are these exhibits? They're not in the press releases that they mentioned. And there is a way that you can go online and check out these lawsuits. And I actually went to this lawsuit. And I pulled down the exhibit page, like the download of that, which is like more than 100 pages. But as you're going through this, they included all of these rejection letters and the emails they FOIA'd from the government. And all
did they use them to like strengthen their own?
No, because those are the ones I just told you where these people are saying, here's why the science makes no sense.
Oh.
And I thought it was amazing that, like, of course, Answers in Genesis didn't include the exhibit packet because it totally invalidates all this stuff they're talking about. Shouldn't that be a dead giveaway that they're on the wrong side of this?
I mean, there have been many dead giveaways that we've all chosen to. Is the Ark Encounter folding?
No. Ark Encounter, here's where we're at.
It's not as profitable as they...
Here's where we're at with Here's where we're at with Ark Encounter. In order to make this $100 million plus attraction, they had to find a spot. They found a spot in Grant County, Kentucky, which is not happening place. And Grant County is kind of going under. Before, they were going under.
Just the
city, the county.
Is
they were hoping, Ark Encounter wants to come here. This could be an attraction that would draw people to our city. We can build hotels and restaurants. And from every article that I have seen, I should mention, Ark Encounter has not released attendance numbers.
Really?
They're supposed to get a tax break, like a tax refund, based on their attendance. But we're not going to get those numbers. We can't even ask the government for those numbers until like summer.
2018?
Till this summer.
So we
because it's been a year since it opened.
2016 tax numbers.
We can't get their attendance figures and know how much money they're getting back in return until this July, I think. So we don't know their attendance. Ken Hams keeps saying attendance is great. No numbers
because
attached.
He just has giant suits that just walk around
there. But every local newspaper that covers Grant County says the county is still suffering.
Really?
Yeah. People are not staying in hotels. They are not doing this. And of course, there are explanations for all this that people will try to offer.
Global warming.
But more or less, there are people in the city officials who are like, Ark Encounter has not brought people to our city.
You don't fucking say.
To do anything. So it's not folding. It's still there. It's still getting attention. It's not getting press per se, but it's getting attention. But we don't know what the numbers are. And until, what I'm really curious about is as soon as we can find out their attendance numbers this summer, do they match the projections that Answers in Genesis gave when they said, we want to build this here? We want the city to give us money or the land to do this at a discount. We want this we're selling this bond to raise money. We can't answer any of that until we kind of get these numbers. So
yeah, I mean, and honestly, it's just a bummer because I know, in the Rust Belt in the U.S. is having its issues.
Is that the Rust Belt?
Isn't it?
I don't know.
Isn't
Kentucky.
Rust Belt the Appalachians? Oh my God, I don't know.
No, I think it's higher up.
Is it?
I think.
Oh, you're right, because it's Ohio.
Well, yeah, Michigan, Detroit, all that.
So, fuck.
But it's a struggling area.
A struggling economy that depended on almost certainly coal for a long time. That's not been.
Yeah, it's like a rural.
Am I fucking this up too?
I don't know, but it's a rural area.
Well, okay,
yes, and if they want to draw people to their area, they were seriously hoping, and I understand it. If you bring a giant tourist attraction to our town, we could do so much to boost our local economy. We could help the schools because we are going to get a cut of the money. It's going to raise all boats.
Obviously, I don't want the Ark Encounter to succeed.
But if it fails, it also means it's taking down the county with it. But
I also don't want it to fail because, because the government put money into it.
Yeah.
They sincerely thought
County.
It was a good investment for their county or their city or their state. And it wasn't. And I feel like we saw this coming a mile away. And I don't want to say I told you so. It's not what I'm here to do.
Remember that when they made their pitch to Grant County, we want to build this here, they didn't just say it'll be good for the local economy. They said we have so many jobs for people in this county. We're going to need so many people here. And then it was only later that they said, oh, by the way, you have to agree with younger creationism and you have to oppose gay marriage and you have to follow our statement of belief. That was the whole reason there was a lawsuit over the tax rebate they were getting because they are a discriminatory thing. And they won, Ark Encounter won that debate.
How did that happen?
Because the rebate had to do with whether it was a tourist attraction, more or less. And they said it is, even if it's a Christian ministry. They are still eligible for the tourism grant, whatever. So Andrew Snelling, he's filing this discrimination lawsuit. But honestly, he didn't not get the grant permit or the permit for the Grand Canyon because he's a Christian or because he's a creationist.
Yeah.
He didn't get it because it's a bad proposal. And everyone who knows geology said it.
You're not contributing to anything. That's the thing that, honestly, it's a thing that super bugs me of you're not helping. You're not helping anything. And that's why people who are anti-global warming, I'm like, what is your goal? What is your best possible outcome? What?
I would add, a commenter wrote this, and I think it's worthwhile to add. I've collected on federal lands before under permit. As a rule, they're almost always granted to scientists from reputable, accredited academic institutions.
So it's not like an exclusive club to get into.
Yeah, no, and ICR, the creationist group, they're not. And this guy added, if it's not accredited, then you got to get an independent peer review people who can vouch for you. And what did he do? He got 3 creationist buddies to say, this is great research. I can't wait to see what he does.
Oh my God, he's so good at it. It's tremendous research.
So, yeah, it's just a weird lawsuit. So, I mean, I hope this guy loses because he should, but who knows?
He's a nightmare person.
Anyway, that's all I got.
Is that your...
Back to Comey. We're done.
No, and honestly, a lot of times when big news items happen in the week, I actually get stressed because I don't have anything like original or intelligent to say about things like that. Like, I can talk about religious discrimination and shit like that, but like,
what's going on
this
with the government?
Comey thing, I have nothing important to add. I do want to add, and again, you can cut this out if you want to, but so Hemant and I launched our Patreon page.
It's patreon.com/friendly atheist podcast.
Thank you, Hemant.
You're welcome.
So here's what I want to do. So somebody, and I'm going to look up her name shortly, made a drinking game to our podcast, which is maybe the funniest thing that's ever happened to me, and also a thing I definitely sent to my parents because I have no pride. It was Comic Slice. Was her? Oh,
Cosmic.
Yeah, it was Cosmic.
Yeah.
What did I say?
Comic.
I was in the neighborhood. At MARIPOSALAND. That's
Mariposa Land?
I did my best. But one of the things she mentioned is it is a staple on our particular show that I make a really obvious pop culture reference, and Hemant whiffs it because he grew up in a basement, I think.
That is true. Chained.
Yeah, it's a tragic. You might have seen a documentary about him. So my proposal was, and Hemant is tentative, but my proposal is if we get to...
If you give a certain amount on Patreon.
So total per month. So if we clear a total amount per month. So understand, like Hemant and I both have lives. Like we both have... like, I have a full-time job. I don't know what you do all day.
I sit and yell at the computer.
Don't sleep. And so nothing would make me happier than to do like additional fun bonus episodes. But like once a week is everything we can give to you guys right now. But my proposal is that if we hit a certain amount per month, and Hemant and I will discuss that off mic, that once a month Hemant is forced to watch some sort of so like let's say Star Wars. Let's just start there. That feels Shut the fuck up. So once we hit a certain amount, once a month, Hemant and I will watch a thing that he has never seen, even though he's a 30-something-year-old man who lives in the United States. And we'll do like a bonus episode for Patreon, and it won't necessarily be about atheism. It will just be, I'll definitely be drinking wine, and we'll just talk. Do I want to watch
League of Their Own or something from last week?
Oh my God. A League of Their Own. Let's watch it. It's such a good movie. And my dog's named. Okay. Anyway, the point is this. Guys, we haven't decided on a number yet, and we'll decide off mic. And that's probably not a thing we should discuss on air. But I think this would be super fun. But the reality is, like, Hemant and I both have a lot of shit going on. So we need to make sure we're spending our time wisely. And
I'll do it at 4 a.m. when nothing else is happening.
Hemant, I have to be at work at 8 a.m. in the morning. I can't. Right. I have a 9-to-5 job, and I have to wear a blazer to work every day. So, like, I don't have time for your 4 a.m. garbage. Anyway, this is my idea. So if you guys like it, please, even if it'll be on the Patreon
page, whatever.
Just donate. It means a lot to us, and we really enjoy doing this. And it's been fun to hear your feedback. Even though, hey guys, with the red pill, don't care. Don't ever talk to me again. I don't care. But my Twitter is at Blueberry, BLUEBURE.
I'm at Heaven Meta.
Shut the fuck. I'm so mad at myself still. 23-year-old Jess should have really figured out her shit. My Etsy store is Bitches Get Stitched Done. I'm kind of behind, so like don't super jump on that. Patreon.com/friendlyatheistpodcast.
And friendlyatheist.com is the website. You should read stories.
Yeah. Our email is friendlyatheistpodcast@gmail.com. Hemant sends me all the nice things. I think he's like squatting on all the shitty things.
No, I will send you the shitty things too.
He does. Really he does all the time. And I always get them at like 8:30 in the morning. I'm like, well, there's my day. But guys, with absolute sincerity, it makes my day when you guys tweet at us or email us. It's fun because I forget that this is a thing, and then I'm sitting at my cubicle in a blazer, and I just get a really sweet email from somebody. I'm like, oh, my life is worth living. I didn't mean to be dramatic. I'm sorry. Anyway.
Thanks for listening.
Oh, bye.
We'll be back soon. We'll do more of this.